tell us a bit about you and what you're doing.
Sure. So my name is Matt Mullenweg. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. A couple years ago, I moved to San Francisco to go west and pursue my dream. I worked at actually a big media company called CNET for about a year. And through this time, WordPress actually existed. CNET used WordPress a lot. And I got pretty frustrated with the big company thing and decided to found a company just focusing on WordPress full time. That was Automattic. And now Automattic has two products, WordPress.com and Akismet. And that's what we work on. We're an open source company, now 17 people worldwide.
So the latest release of WordPress has been published a few days ago. And what is the future? What is coming? You're working on tagging right now with WordPress, so a bit of changes are taking place. What comes in the future?
So last release was 2.3, and it's the first that's hinting at our world domination ambitions as a platform. So if you look at any mature platform in the world, be it Windows, Mac OS X, Firefox, they all have a number of common characteristics, and the one that we don't do right now is updates. Update notification, automatic upgrading, downloading and installing everything. So 2.3 included update notification, and it was a mostly overlooked feature, but it's going to be phenomenally important going forward because we'll be able to, in the future, say, there's new versions of these 4 plugins and of WordPress. Click this button. Within seconds, you'll be upgraded. That way, everyone will be on the latest and greatest system. We'll be able to roll out innovations much faster to our user base. Also, everyone will be more secure because if there's a security problem, we can roll out a fix within hours instead of having to wait weeks for everyone to download it, if they upgrade at all.
We're here at the FOVA in London, which is a fair about web apps. What are your favorite web apps, and what kind of software or platforms are you using yourself?
That's a good question. So things I use every day. I actually use Pounce a fair amount. I like it. I use Google Reader. I really enjoy it. Honestly, a lot of more time spent on WordPress. WordPress.com has a lot of good content, and probably the number one drain to my productivity is I'll get a bug or something that I'm trying to fix. I'll open the homepage of WordPress.com. There'll be like a headline there. I'm like, it's like crack. I can't not click on it. So that's certainly a big part of my day. And that's pretty much it that I can think of. I'm sure there's 10 others I use, but they're just so ingrained in my daily life I don't even notice them.
Okay.
Desktop tower defense is a good one.
What will happen when Google will be broken, or in case Google is broken? What will happen to the web?
In case Google is broken,
or will go bankrupt? What will happen? We asked the question to all the people we interview, and we got interesting interviews.
We'll have to duct all the pigs flying by, and definitely carry around umbrellas. I don't think that there's anything intrinsically important about Google itself. Google's the manifestation of a hole in the marketplace. The thing that they got big on, which was good search, is actually a commodity now. Yahoo has pretty darn good search, MSN has pretty good search. And so what they've transformed into is an advertising company. An advertising company that's able to capture and monetize intent very well. So if they went away tomorrow and all the advertising was gone, I personally wouldn't mind. But a lot of businesses would be very seriously impacted. And I think they're funneling, if you just look at their income statements, hundreds of millions of dollars are funneling from Google into businesses. Big, like Wall Street Journal and CNN, and small, like ourselves. And they would probably have a pretty serious impact. Could anyone else do that technology? To me, it seems like it should be really easy, but competitors like Yahoo and Microsoft have had 4 years since AdSense came out to catch up, and they haven't. So there's obviously some hidden complexity there that makes Google really good at what they do. But I also wonder if it perhaps wouldn't accelerate the development of non-advertising business models, perhaps give them more legs.
Talking about social software and social platforms, looking into the future, what is the future of social networks, or what do you see in this subject and this topic in the future?
So, 4 years ago, I was actually very idealistic, and I worked with Tomtek Celik and Eric Meyer on what was the first ever microformat. It was called XFN, XHTML Friends Network. And the idea was that At the time, we thought there were a bajillion social networks, meaning Friendster and like one other. And we thought, well, wouldn't it be great if you could represent your relationships in these networks in an independent way and be able to take that with you to your new network? So like a social network portability. So that way, the data, the investment you put into these sites is yours. It doesn't just belong to them and lock you in. That idea is actually starting to come to fruition now, many years later. And there's sites like Pounce and Flickr are supporting XFN. And there's now tools, it's early stages, but there's tools being built that will help you suck in all your information using microformats. Things like HCard and XFN, I think, are the building blocks, and allow you to do interesting things with that. And whether that means you can, a new entrant to the field, like the next best social network, will grow that much faster because everyone can just import all the data instead of waiting for their friends to come, or whether that means that maybe it's not social networks at all. Maybe it's something intensely personal. I am actually still a big believer in the desktop.
Okay.
And I think that the ultimate place where, let me put it this way. Right now, a lot of people on the web are essentially sharecroppers. They're relying on someone else's goodwill and benevolence for their online existence to continue, including people hosted on WordPress.com, to be fair. The control, if I move the control of, or my data to something like, let's say Plaxo, allows me to sync all my contacts from Yahoo and Outlook and all these other things, it's still on Plaxo. I don't really control that at the end of the day. You asked the question about Google going away. It's actually far more likely that Plaxo will go away tomorrow, and I'm just SOL. If it's on my desktop, that's pretty powerful. And if I own the data, and most importantly, if whatever's running that is open source. Because fundamentally, Web 2.0 to me is just catching up with what open source did like 20 years ago.
Okay.
And so open source is still fundamental for any of us to ever have real control over our destiny.
What is your view about OpenID?
OpenID? It's cool.
Yeah. Because there are different views. Some fear that it's not your real identity, that it's a problem because there's no trust in OpenID. And on the other hand, for others, it's an open system to log on to different networks.
So there are technical issues, certainly. It raises concerns about, like you just said, it raises concerns about phishing. I think the biggest problem for OpenID, though, is just that it's a little bit of a boil the ocean approach. Boil the ocean. So for it to really work, it requires adoption by everyone. If you look at some of the problems that OpenID is solving, such as having multiple logins at different places, the way those have been solved are on the desktop. Your browser remembers, your username or password, or through social means. Most notably that people use the same username and password on all their sites. Yeah. Which isn't, is that a unified login? To them it is. And those are elegant and simple solutions that work for everyone. And so we need to make whatever replaces it, and I do think something should replace it, as elegant and as simple.
One question, we are moving in different evolutionary steps. We are now talking about Web 2.0. What is the future for web? What will the next big thing be on the net?
To me, it's all about open source. Open source, more importantly, open source is consumer applications, because the past 25 years of open source have been for developers. It's been compilers and web servers and things like Linux. And now, I think with WordPress, Firefox, with Pigeon, which used to be called Game, there's these mainstream, mass market, open source products. And that's going to start affecting real people. My mom, your mom, real people in the world. And once they get a taste of what can be done with open source, I just think, it's like having like a Kobe beef and then going back to some ground beef, It's like, it's night and day. And once you've had the good stuff, you're not going to want to go back to the bad stuff, which I will characterize as Microsoft.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
The interesting thing is that you're talking about desktop applications.